the guest is really the star of the show. You are facilitating something and you are supposed to allow them to speak. Give them that grace and give them that time. And they also give you that grace and time because there comes a point where they would realize they have made their point and they want to hear what you have to say.
Most hosts never achieve the results they hoped for. They're falling short on listenership and monetization, meaning their message isn't being heard and their show ends up costing them money. This podcast was created to help you grow your listenership and make money while you're at it. Get ready to take notes. Here's your host, Adam Adams.
Hey, podcaster, it's your host, Adam Adams. And today on this episode, I'm here with Corine La Font. And we're going to be talking about you getting over your fears, the fears that are holding you back, the struggles that are making you not get your voice in front of your audience. And you know that you need to get your voice in front of your audience. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. Mm-hmm. Her podcast is called Between the Lines, Decoding Hidden Meanings in Communication. Mm-hmm. And the link is already down in the show notes. Also, her bio is down in the show notes. And any social media that she wanted you to have to be able to connect with her, all of that's down in the show notes. So you can go and follow her, find her website, find her podcast, find her social, just by scrolling down right now. We're talking about finding a way to get over your fear so you can start podcasting. And we're going to be talking with Corine right now. Hey, Corine. I hope you're doing awesome. I think it might be interesting to some people that are listening where in the world you're calling from.
Yes. And I'm going to spread some envy and jealousy here. I'm in Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean, warm and sunny.
It snowed this week for me. So I definitely want to get out to the Caribbean. Hey, sure. While I'm talking to you, I have a question. There is a lot of people that say Caribbean and a lot of people that say Caribbean. And I would venture to say, unless you live there or have been there several times, that you really believe in your heart of hearts that the best way is Caribbean. And I want you to just share the truth about this.
Well, I don't know what is the truth. The truth is what you believe. But this is, and my truth is Caribbean. But I have heard the pronunciation Caribbean, and that's fine. Okay. But you could tell that anyone who says Caribbean is definitely not from the Caribbean. So
okay, interesting. Okay, perfect. I've always wondered because I've heard a lot of people say it's not Caribbean, it's Caribbean because they are the Caribs. And so it's Caribbean.
Cannot be because we are not only Caribs. Okay. We were made of Caribs and Arawaks. So that definitely does not make sense.
All right. That's good. I'm glad you could correct me right in front of my listener so that I look dumb. I appreciate you so much. So we want to talk about being able to get over our fears. So I want to start here. Corine, what fears did you have and how long did it take you to publish your podcast?
That's a question. Let me think back. I can't recall necessarily having any fears necessarily because like I mentioned to you offline, I just wanted to get my voice out. I have thoughts, I have ideas, I have opinions, and I just didn't want people to drum out or curtail me or curfew me with traditional media. When you go with traditional media, radio station, media house, they're going to tell you what you could say, what you cannot say, how to say it. And so that's not authentic to me. And I have to be authentic. I have to be myself. And so when I was looking into having my own radio show, yes, I did approach and checked out traditional media. That's the first thing I did. But I knew there had to be a better way. And podcasting actually was pioneering at the time. And I started with Blog Talk Radio, which I think was one of the first platforms that came out. And it allowed me to get started in about 60 seconds with a lovely studio, real pretty, real nice, and makes me feel like I'm a studio engineer, everything online. But traditional media would ask you to find your own sponsors. You have to pitch a proposal. You have to look at the strategic objectives of the radio station to see if what your show is about is going to match what they are seeking, because they're into business, they're into making money. And so the whole intention is that if you're coming with a proposal, with an idea, with a radio show, it has to be able to bring subscribers, bring listeners, engagement, and consistently do so. One of the things I didn't like with traditional media was that there was no way to track. With online radio, you could track all your analytics. You can know where your listeners are come from. You can engage with them. You can, see all the demographics. You can't see that with traditional radio. And so I said, nah, that's not going to work for me. I want to be able to see, where everything is happening, who is talking to me, what age group, what gender, etc. And so I didn't want to go traditional. I would have had to find my sponsors, and that takes time. And I really am not about taking months and years, to do all these things, and you have to make sure that you meet the sponsors' objectives as well, because they are investing in your show. So they have to get a return on their investment. And the traditional houses, of course, is looking to make money. So at the end of the day, you're really not making anything. You still end up just sharing your voice. And you could easily do that with online radio, podcasting.
So it sounds like, Corine, that you didn't have very many things holding you back, and that you started your podcast in like 60 seconds. But
That's right.
a lot of other people that started a podcast, but it took them a long time. And, or, people that currently want a podcast, but something's holding them back. So let's speak to that person.
Yeah.
How would you have somebody who would normally want to hold back and be perfect and think that nobody wants to listen to them, to get into a place where they feel comfortable launching their show?
One of the fears that's holding people back is, do I need to show myself on camera? I don't really sound too good. I don't have that kind of professional radio voice. So it's either their voice or it's either their look. My surroundings, I don't really have everything. I don't really have a professional mic. I heard you need all this other technical equipment. I don't have the money for that. So it's money, it's the look, it's the voice, it's the surroundings. And then, of course, it's the topic. What am I going to talk about? Who is going to have an interest in that? People would laugh at me. If anybody hears me doing a radio show, I'm going to be laughed at. What are my friends going to think? What are people going to think? It's a whole lot of voices you're going to be hearing in your head. And it's all made up because nobody's really telling you these things. It's just you telling yourself, so you are actually holding yourself back from actually getting
let me ask you specifics.
Sure.
Because you mentioned like 5 or 6 different things.
That's right.
And it's like, it might hold us back because we don't look a certain way, or it might hold us back because we think our voice sounds a certain way, or because we don't know what content. Let's talk about those 3 for now.
Okay, sure.
How do we get over our looks, our voice, or our content?
Just accepting yourself. You can't change who you are. This is what I look like. This is what I look like, and I have no intention of changing it. The color of my skin, the frame of my face, my hair, it doesn't matter. And then when I look at the people on YouTube or other podcasters, if they're doing video or audio, I do believe, and I have experienced, that people are more interested in what you have to share. They're not concerned about your background. They're not coming to critique you or notice you have a little zit here or whatever it is.
Hey, you're pointing out my zit?
I am. Nobody really cares about that. People are coming to get quick information, tips that they could implement, or just to relate. Some people, depending on the type of podcast they do, some people are just coming as an outlet. They just need to probably just connect with someone, or for someone to resonate with them so that they know they're not alone in the situation that they're in. So nobody's paying attention to the way you look, because you cannot change that. And if you do, let me promise you one thing: you will be changing it for every single target audience and every single person. And I don't think you could multiply yourself and change yourself to suit every single person out there. So I think it's a pretty simple thing if you just accept who you are, the way you sound, the way you look, and the content that you want to birth out of you, whatever you have to share. Because believe me, there are lots of podcasts here now, and there are people who are following specific podcasts because it is doing something for them.
Yeah. I have a question. So you started your podcast. I can't remember the platform that you mentioned. Can you say
Blog
that?
Talk Radio. Blog Talk
Blog Talk.
Radio.
And that's still around, I think.
It
I
is,
think it's
I
one of
think.
the. Okay.
Yeah.
And just to share with us a little bit about your journey, like what you first started it at what year, and when did you make your first change after that?
I think it was 2012 is when I started with Blog Talk Radio. And it's free. I think it's still free. I haven't checked it lately. I think it's still free. So if you want to get started and test the waters to see if what you're doing making sense, I guess that's a good way to start. I think they give you 15 minutes free, and then you could probably upgrade to get more, more features. But it allows for that. And I started making the change, I guess, as I noticed people engaging more listeners, because Blog Talk Radio allows persons to call in to the show. So in your studio, you can engineer that and accept calls from persons. You get that kind of access. So you actually get to engage live with a call in to ask a question or to relate with your guest if you have a guest. Some people go with their podcast. It may not do a guest. It may be just them talking, like a solo type of monologue. And people can call in to ask questions. Either way, it doesn't matter. But Blog Talk allowed for that type of interaction with an audience.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so yours is called Between the Lines.
Between the Lines.
Have a subtitle, Decoding Hidden Meanings in Communication.
That's what Between the Lines
Let me ask you this. Who is your target audience? Who's your perfect avatar?
Well, I don't know if it's a perfect avatar, but my listening audience are persons who are in personal as well as work relationships that are toxic. They're in situations that they need to navigate those situations. People who are in negotiations, on the negotiation table, and they want to be able to understand the hidden meanings of what's going on. Persons who are behavioral analysts, who are trying to probably study persons' behaviors, their posture, their intonations, a number of things, even their hand gestures, their eye rolls or their head tilts. They're able to understand that, because
my dog tilts his head a lot.
Well, he's telling you something. I don't know what, but he's telling you something.
he knows I'm full of crap. He's like, what? What?
He's like, what?
All right. So it helps people with communication, especially in toxic relationships.
Yeah.
I want to give you some kudos in front of our listener.
Thanks.
And that is the titling of your episodes are done really well. So
thank you.
A lot of people, they title their episodes in obscure ways or confusing ways or ways that don't make sense, ways that don't hook you. But a lot of yours, a good 80-90% of them are just, they really call out what we need to do in just a few words. So for example, you had an episode with a guy named Robert Wilson, and it was called Dissolving Pleasing Others. And that is simple. It's like get rid of having to please everybody.
That's right.
And we get that quickly. And it's like, I know exactly what value I'll get if I listen to this podcast. And it also, hey, most of us need that. Or at least Adam would like to think that most people need that, because I certainly do. But
he went soft on that. He went soft on that. Notice his voice went low. He doesn't want you to know that.
So like raising extraordinary children, knowing your self-worth, change leadership and turn around into pandemic. Your life, what are you searching for? So there's a lot of these that just seem to pull me in and say, I would love to listen to that. So can you share with the listener, how do you think about, or maybe you're using AI, maybe you have somebody else doing this for you, but how do you get your title to grab the attention of the person that you want to speak to?
Just the way you said it. You want to be able to let people see just from the title what the episode is about without even having to start listening to the episode. So it should be able to capture their attention. I'm a communication specialist. You may see that on the screen. And so I would do press releases and a lot of written stuff. And so I know that the heading, the title is what really captures people. And so it's not clickbait. I don't do clickbait and I don't use AI. I actually look at my guests because I have guests coming on my show and I see what they do. I look into their background. I look at their website. I do a bit of research and I look for that thing that would grab me. And if I think it would grab me and it will grab an audience, I would use that. I allow the guest to suggest a topic for conversation, but most of the times it doesn't ring for me. It doesn't resonate. So I come up with my own topic because I know what will grab an audience. Yeah. And I thank you for that feedback. I really appreciate that because I used to wonder, am I really grabbing persons with the title of my episodes, And so I'm thankful to hear you say that.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely something that I think before we were recording, we were talking about location. And with the titling of the episode, you do an amazing job at getting the fewest amount of words to explain what value you'll get. Mm-hmm. And I would say just on the show notes of that, that the first couple of lines are the same on most of them. So it's like, join Corine La Font at this podcast with this person. And then it starts telling the listener what they'll get. That's one thing that you could tweak is like, this is the information that you will get with this guest and hosted by Corine. So that it's like kind of flipped. So it's like, this is what you're going to get. This is who it's with. And this is me versus this is me, the podcast, the person, and then later.
No. Yeah. Totally get that. I love that. Thank you so much.
Awesome. And how about, I like your artwork. I think that, the photo of you is very attractive. The colors are very bright and they pull you in. Mm-hmm. And the text, the font, just the look of it was done really well. Will you please share with the listener some tips on getting their podcast artwork done?
Mm-hmm. Well, I created all what you see there, except for the recent new cover art that was uploaded. I give somebody an opportunity to try. And so they came up with that. And I said, I'm revamping my whole podcast. Let me try something fresh for 2025 and beyond. But keep it clean. Keep it clean. And you see, the thing about it, you have to create artwork that is, what do they call that now? You can see it on different devices. Because, it's kind of liquid. If you watch something on
let me ask if this is what you mean. Is this what you're saying? That when the artwork is on a handheld device, like a phone, it might be so small that if the text is small and hard to read, then it's going to be pointless. Is that kind of what you're saying? Make it so that it still stands out on a tiny screen?
That's right. Okay. And don't try to get everything like a soup on it and think, everybody would want to see this. And you put everything on, like a circus horse. No, you have to get that salient thing out, or probably just an image with one or two words that really gets, attracts the listener and would tell the listener, this is what my podcast, this is what my podcast is about,
Awesome. Okay. Let me ask you your goal for the podcast. Do you have a business that this is attached to? Do you just want your kids to be able to listen to it? Do you want to monetize it with sponsorship? What's the goal for you? And sometimes there's 3 goals. So if that's the case, put them in order.
Well, monetization. Who doesn't want some money? So monetization would be one. My children, I'm not even bothered about them. They're not even children anymore. They're adults. So they're on their own. But what I would want for my podcast, really, it's educational. It's on how to. What I would want to see is more people engaging with the podcast, so an increase in engagement, and persons coming to me and saying, not that they don't, but I would like to see more of it, that what was said or written has helped them, that particular tip, and they have shared it because it moved them so much. That particular story that was shared moved them so much. So that is what means more to me, that what I'm putting out there is actually helping an audience, because it's a how-to and it's an education. It's not about me. I can share my experiences, my guests can share their experiences, and we can both learn. And we want the audience to be able to learn. So yes, monetization. Yes, an increase in engagement. Apple reviews, just like we mentioned offline. If we could get some Apple reviews, that would be cool too.
Okay. Monetize Apple reviews for the social proofing so other people see. And so and so monetizing. And do you want to monetize it by selling your own product or service, or by having a sponsor or something else?
A combination. Why choose one?
Okay. Tell me more about that. Is there a direction? Is there something you're already doing, or is there something you're planning for in the near future?
I am already doing one of those. No sponsorship yet, but I am selling my own products. So I have some ebook courses that are related to the topics that I discuss on my podcast and with my guests. And depending on which guests come on, of course, I will feature those. So those are actually put in my show notes, and it comes at the end as an outro video, so people can see those. And I've been actually paying attention to the analytics on the viewing of those courses, and it has been increasing steadily. No purchases yet, and that's fine. But people are viewing it because I have a preview, a free download of a chapter of each of those ebook courses that allows people to download. So I guess they are downloading it, checking it out, and making a decision whether they want to delve a little deeper and purchase. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I want to ask you in a moment, we're going to take a quick break, but I want to find out 3 big lessons or 3 things you've learned the hard way, maybe, by having a podcast or doing this since 2012. So we're going to get 3 lessons. We'll be right back. Hey, my friend, as you know, this episode is sponsored by my company, growyourshow.com. We want you to be able to have the best tools at your disposal without costing you a whole arm and a leg. So right now you can get a free list of vetted equipment that, like mics, mixers, webcams, sound treatment, editing software, everything that you need. I created the whole PDF with direct purchase links just to save you time and money, to help it be more convenient for you. So this free PDF will help you skip all the guesswork. If it's on there, it's vetted and approved by yours truly. And if it's not on there, it's probably not worth the money. So go ahead and get yours at growyourshow.com/PDF. Let's get back into the show. We're back with Corine La Font from Between the Lines. You can get her bio, her website, all down in the show notes. We've talked already a little bit about working on getting past some of the fears that you might have so that you can get your podcast launched and in front of other people. We've also learned a little bit more along the way, also even how to pronounce Caribbean. And now we're going to talk about 3 things that she's learned since 2012. So for the last 12, 13, 14 years, she's been doing this podcasting thing. She's learned a thing or 2. She's great at communication. Corine, what are the 3 things that you've learned possibly the hard way?
Possibly the hard way. Allow the guests to speak more. I've had that feedback from probably 1 or 2 guests, not a lot, that I think they're probably connected to the guest, that they feel passionate, that they want to hear more of their friend speak. But I've never had that feedback from other persons before, but I take it to heart because it was feedback. So that's one. The second one is be patient with myself. Since 2012, when somebody hear that, they might think, oh, Corine is such a multi-million-dollar whatever, a Joe Rogan in Trinidad and Tobago, making so much money with podcasting because she started so long ago. No, it's nothing like that. And it all comes back to why you really got started in podcasting. It's really about your objective. So be patient with yourself. I have been, and not a lot of people survive in podcasting. So the fact that I'm still here doing it and people are still listening to me is a good thing. At least I think it's a good thing. And be open to change. Recently, like I mentioned, I changed my cover art. I've had the previous cover art from 2012, and when I saw the new one, I was a little bit, I don't know if I want to let go of the one I created years ago. So it was a little bit of a grief moment release,
Yeah.
but I accepted it. I actually put it out there on social media, and I said, "Hey, look at the before and after, and tell me, which one you like." I put it out for my peeps, as they say, to give some feedback, because
Yeah.
what they say matter. And it's not about me. I keep saying it's not about me. So if they like it, I'm gonna go with it.
Yeah.
And
That reminds
they,
me of one of your episodes. I think it's
yeah,
the What's in It for Me. And
yeah,
isn't that like, what is the listener going to get out of this? Because they care about themselves more than they care about you.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
So here's the three things
Mm-hmm,
you mentioned. Allow the guest to speak more. And
mm-hmm,
I'm sorry if I cut you off a million times today. Number two, be patient with myself. So it doesn't mean you're going to be a millionaire overnight because you have a podcast.
mm-hmm,
Just let it go, let it happen, be part of the journey. Number
mm-hmm,
three is be open to change so you can bend like a tree in the wind and change, pivot, grow, and improve. I've
that's right.
heard what got you here won't necessarily get you to where you want to go. So
That's right.
everything that you did to get here, great, but it doesn't mean that that's the same thing that takes you to the next level. If
That's
you
right.
if you are making nothing per month and you want to make 10 grand, you got to do something different that got
Different.
you to nothing. And if you're making 10 grand a month
Yeah.
and you want to make 100,000 a month, you've got to do something different that
Mm-hmm,
is able to 10x that, or
mm-hmm,
to get to the million or the 10 million a month or the 100 million a
mm-hmm,
month.
mm-hmm.
You got to change a few things. So, three things you learned: allow the guests to speak more, be patient about myself, be open to change. You mentioned that you've had a couple of guests, a couple of listeners
Mm-hmm.
that mentioned, I want you to let the guest speak more.
Mm-hmm.
If our listener today is worried about or thinking about or is already failing at talking too much, is there something you can share that would give them value they could take away, which would allow them to get out of the way?
Get out of your own way. You just said the magic words, get out of your own way. Sometimes we tend to talk a bit too much, and you have to be more aware of yourself. And that happens you could see that happening in a number of other situations. So, for example, I have probably in a speaking opportunity, speaking on the stage, you might talk yourself out of an exciting topic, and you notice that there's a lull in the engagement of the audience. Another scenario, maybe you go to an interview for a job and you're doing so well, and all of a sudden, boop, everything just went, the temperature in the room changes because you're talking too much as opposed to being very straight and targeted in your response when the interviewer asks you something. So there are different scenarios that showcases when these things are happening. And what I'm trying to share with your audience is they need to be in touch with themselves. They need to be aware. And they could ask people as well. Am I talking too much? Do I overdoing what I'm saying or over explain myself? So you have to be aware of that. And so sometimes you even like you apologize, interrupting when somebody else is speaking. These are little things that you have to pull back and be aware of yourself and just sit back and be always excited because the thoughts are in our head and we want to get that thought out. But you have to be able to have that amount of control and know that it's going to come back. And even if it doesn't, then it wasn't as relevant and let it go. But the guest is really the star of the show. You are facilitating something and you are supposed to allow them to speak, give them that grace and give them that time. And they also give you that grace and time because there comes a point where they would realize they have made their point and they want to hear what you have to say. So it's I call it a dance, it's a dance of language, and one person has to lead, one person has to follow. And there comes a point when the music stops, when the music starts back, and you start dancing again. So allow it to be that flowing dance.
It's funny. I was learning some new types of dance this week.
Really?
Yeah, I'm just the last couple of nights. went and learned some salsa, some
Oh
reggae,
yeah.
and
Oh
some
yeah.
bachata.
Oh my
And
God, my fave.
it's funny because, of course, I looked super, super awkward, and
You
my
did not.
partner was, well, I felt that way. And my partner was a natural, and I kept saying, like, what do you do? And she would say, I don't know, because the guy usually leads. So like, she's like,
That's right.
I can do it, but I need you to like tell me where to go.
That's
And I
right.
think that is a good analogy that you brought up. It's
Yeah.
like your guest
Mhm.
can do it,
Mhm.
but you kind of have to lead them along the way.
That's right.
Interesting. I really like
That's
that
right.
analogy. Thank you for sharing it.
Of
All right.
course. And we need to dance one of these days. So
There you
hook
go.
that up. Hook that
There you
up.
go. And I never knew the difference between those three types of music. I was like, how do you
Oh,
know? But I'm starting, because you start learning the differences. I'm starting
of
to
course.
actually
The
hear the
beat.
music and be like, oh, okay, I would do bachata on this
That's
one.
right. That's
So it's
right.
kind of fun.
Mhm. And you
I'm
could
only
dance
2 days
salsa.
in. I'm
You
not
could.
good. I'm not good. I'm 2 days in. I'm a
You're
newbie.
you're
But no, this
doing
is
well.
great. The analogy of leading the guest, staying out of the way, letting them shine
Mhm.
is brilliant, because it's like I was thinking, yeah, you are cutting your guest off sometimes, because you kind of have to take them to the other. You got to take them where we need to go, and at the same time, you can't just like say, okay, do whatever. You kind of got to be
Mhm.
involved and
Mhm.
guide it,
Mhm.
and help them help her look good if you're the guy and
That's
she's
right.
the follower.
That's
So
right. That's
this is
right.
great. I love
The
it.
the lead is a guy, and he's supposed to make the girl look good. It's not about him,
Oh,
but
yeah.
he is responsible to take her where she needs to go. So she needs to follow. And I did dancing, just to kind of go a little segue here. I
Yeah.
did dancing because it's not only part of my blood, and it's part of me, but it was therapy. It was a way for me to learn to let go and to allow somebody else to lead, because I'm always in leadership. I'm always in control. I'm always taking charge. And it is so much fun if people only know, especially women, because we are the type that if you're involved with a man and he's not doing it, you take up the tools and start doing it yourself, or you call somebody and pay somebody to do it. You just don't have time to waste. And so when you're on the dance floor, a woman may tend to tell the guy, you're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed. No, 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 you don't do that. You say, I don't know. Just like what your partner did. I don't know. You're the lead. Whatever you do, I'm going with you. So when you're in the car with your husband, people, or your boyfriend or whatever, and you know he's lost, because we do know that he's lost, you don't say anything. You support him. Honey, that's okay. We'll find out what's over here. And just support him.
I like that. Interesting, fun. Thank you. And to the listener, the next episode is going to be another good episode with different content that I already know. You need to know. I already know that it's something important to you. So rather than logging off and doing something boring, I'll see you on the next episode. I really don't say this nearly enough. I don't mention this, and I feel horrible, because it's a great resource for you to be able to take your podcast to the next level. And it's simply a free resource that I don't need your email or anything. It's just a podcasting course that I created that is ended up putting in the very first 6 episodes of this podcast. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely going to want to just check out those first 6 episodes, see how they can help you improve your podcast, get in front of more people, and have a better result where you're making more money through the podcast, etc. So much can happen after you listen through episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So if you haven't done it, go do it now. And by the way, if you're subscribed, you'll keep hearing more great content. So to those of you who are, I'll see you on the next episode.